Hi there. Today I want to show you my different ways of making snares in Serum and with samples. So I'm gonna just go right into Serum and gonna choose basic shapes right here. What I love doing first is kinda doing the transient on its own, but everyone's different there. And then I just like to put the LFO1 on the level and then just play myself a note. Kind of get a feel. So I'll do that. And then I'll make it really short. And then I like to use a little bit of a pitch automation as well. So I go to LFO2 and I go to the matrix and I click LFO2 here, and then I go to global and I go to master tune and I set it into one direction, and then I do this. And then I might actually try around with different octaves. Until kind of get this transient sound. And then I go back in and work on the length. And then I kind of got that transient already. And then I normally kind of do it in a second term, but let's try to do it in one. And then I use LFO3, kind of also determine the shape, and I leave a little bit of space for the transient in the beginning. And that kind of gives me the body. And that highly depends on what kind of snare you're making, what you kind of want your body to sound like. But that's the basis that you can build your snare on. And then you can use LFO for some type of noise. And you once again make a shape. I kinda need to EQ that, so I open up the filter section here, and then I choose this high pass here, and I only let it affect the noise. Sorry. It can be also fun to experiment with that, to kind of add a little bit of a movement. Then you can open your compressor. And then it's literally all about experimenting with it. For example, right now, I feel like this is a little bit too long still, the body. You can add a little bit of reverb and make sure you cut the lows. Can be cool to put it before the compressor, but try around. Then you can play around with the EQ setting. It's pretty cool as well. You can all do that within Serum. So you can maybe have some fun with that. Better this way. Then you can also add more punch by also moving that notch around. You can, for example, change the frequency of that. And try around how much you like that and how tight that should be. So you can get these really nasty kind of dubstep snares if the Q is very tight. But don't overdo it, of course. And then just always try around. That's a nice and deep snare. Yeah, I like that. Then you can experiment with different noises. Which one you like more? And as you see, the length has like a big impact on the sound. Then it would be best to tune that. But yeah, if you're at that stage, I just do some resampling actually. And then you already got a snare here. And then we can use some noise. And I did save some crispy noise layers. And this is purely electronic, so there's different ways of getting that sound nicer. So I love using real snares basically, and using only the top end as well as the mids, but in that case I used the top end and made samples from it, and already it sounds much nicer. And then I love to do a few more. For example, that's that one. Yeah, for example, noise that I've put through a very fast LFO. I kind of use that as an extra crunchy layer for my snares. So you can do that. And then I like to use acoustic layers actually. And I've also made some samples which I've just recorded straight out of Addictive drums. So I just basically recorded them in different velocities. And I really like the tonal ones, so you'll hear these quite a lot in my tracks. And then I'll layer it. Sometimes I'll compress it because they are quite natural sounding, and for the type of music that I make, sometimes they don't come through enough through the electronic element, so I love to add a pretty aggressive compression on them, and then we can listen to the sound. And now they're not totally in key, so it's not as crazy as it could be, but I go in and pitch the snare in serum to fit the acoustic layer, and then we'd have a very nice sound. And what I'd also do is maybe export the transient on its own again. That's why I normally do it in batches. And there was a little bit of noise with it, but it doesn't really matter. And then I'd kind of like to take it on its own, so I'll have a little bit more control about the transient itself. Go into that, dial that in. Kind of like do that and concentrate on the transient a little bit. Have that kick through the mix. What I often end up doing is basically making a subgroup for the snare, then making sure that I'll make a little cut here every time the transient hits, and then I put the groups back together into another bigger group and call that snare. And then I can start to balance that out a little bit more. Make that mono, make that a bit more aggressive. And then maybe compress the whole group together. Then maybe make that shorter until I get the result I like. But this is always the starting point for the snares I'm doing. Or it's not always. Now it's mostly me using my own samples and making new ones from them. But this is a very great way of making them. Then again, I loved using a bit of an ambient reverb to kind of put them back together. And then I often end up resampling it again, just so I have it as one sample. And then I can kind of edit it again from there, maybe start again, make it shorter. Maybe EQ it a little bit. And when I have like a thing I like, I'll start to add more layers again. So it's a thing that keeps going and keeps going and keeps going until I like how it sounds. There is a really cool plugin, however, called Slap. And with that one, actually, you can like replace your transients even if you don't like them, for example. So you can go choose a different click. You can add some noise. You can add some weird dispersion, basically. And you can tighten it. Clip it. So I love using that, and then using another layer again at the end to really kind of tie it together, because I like the tightness, but then yet again I like to have one sample or one tail basically that is not as tight. So for example, here in one of the snares I've made, there's this nice little tail that's very crunchy, so I'll just use the upper frequencies, and then it has that nice little tail at the end, and that's then the basically finished snare. Yeah, hope that helped you guys. Peace out.